Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Public Safety Committee meeting. Today, we actually have 5 topics, and though we are going to change the order that was originally on our schedule. The first item up is going to be the Office of Consumer Protection. That's going to be followed by the Alcohol Beverage Services, and then right after them, we're going to do the Capital Improvement Program for the ABS Retail Refresh from the CIP, obviously. Then we're going to do the collective bargaining agreements with the MCVFRA, followed by Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services. So hopefully I can remember the order. I've tried my best to make notes. And with that, we're going to first off thank Naeem Mia, who's the legislative analyst who did the packet, who did an extremely good job. We're going to thank, we see that Eric Friedman, the director of OCP, and Samuel Boy is here as well. And so with that, I'll ask Director Friedman if he has any, well, first off, let me ask my colleagues on the committee, do they have any opening remarks on this?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
We got 2 thumbs up from the council president. And with that, Mr. Friedman, did you have any opening remarks?
Just good morning. It certainly seems like we were just together almost a year ago talking about similar things, our budget.
Well, I appreciate that. And in your case, we need to do some things that are not similar. First off, you all do a wonderful job. And I know my colleagues don't always want me to speak for them, but they certainly want me to speak for them on this one. You do a fabulous job, and we sincerely appreciate it. And you need additional resources to make certain that you continue to do that job. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Maya and ask him to please lead us through the packet.
Sure. Good morning, committee members. The packet is fairly straightforward, as you've seen. There's not a lot of issues with OCP's budget. We have a couple of increases for compensation that was approved in FY22 and for pending compensation in FY23. I will note that OCP is starting a new program, the Business Compliance Unit, which will begin in July of this calendar year. The program will initially be staffed by a program manager 2 position that is in the process of being recruited. This program is seeking to identify unregistered, unlicensed businesses in the county and to bring them into compliance by registering them and ensuring that they're following the law, essentially, the consumer protection laws. The program is it's fairly new, and again, it will be staffed by current resources that are in the process of being recruitment. I will note that there was a request for a new position, a entry-level program specialist 1 position at a cost of $65,000 for FY23. $87,000 will be the full year cost. This position was requested. It was not included in the executive's budget. The position, from council staff's point of view, the position makes sense. It's a specialized position that will be able to support this new program. But my recommendation is to defer consideration of this resource until mid FY23, when we have a better sense of what the FY23 and future resource availability will look like. In the meantime, again, as I noted, there's staff that can begin work on this program, and by mid FY23 we'll have a better sense of how the program is doing and what resources we have available to support it, enhance it if need be. At this point, I can turn it over to Mr. Friedman and his staff to explain more about the program and their needs.
Thank you very much. We appreciate having the opportunity to discuss the discussion item just for a couple of minutes. You know, we really enjoy hearing every year that we punch above our weight, but you know, when it comes to small agencies, a few dollars has a huge impact on us. And there is a segment of our community that is not being well served by our office, and we want to address that discrepancy. So if I could just real quickly talk about it, we currently have 2 units in our office. We have an investigations unit that handles all the complaints and constituent services and things of that sort. And then we have a separate licensing unit. And we license auto repair shops and towing firms and new home builders. And what we are doing is trying to convert this just pure licensing unit into a business compliance unit so that we can address the needs of constituents that we are currently not hearing from and businesses that we are not investigating or looking into. So just for your reference, there's a whole segment of merchants against which we never hear from consumers. We never hear from consumers regarding money transmitters or check cashing firms or debt settlement or rent-to-own companies or used car sellers selling online or even collection agencies. Because our whole structure for all these years has been based upon people reporting things to us. If a consumer files a complaint with us, we know to look into that type of merchant or that type of transaction. But we're not hearing from large segments, and this is really an equity and racial equity or social justice, whatever you want to call it. It's really an issue that we are not serving underserved members of our community. And so what we want to do is to be able to create this unit so that we can be proactive, because we really need to be proactive. This is not a gotcha unit. We're going to work with these merchants. We're going to work with these consumers in types of transactions for which we are not providing the service that we have provided for all the other segments of our population. We've put together a PowerPoint. We know you don't have time for the whole thing. We've got 3 or 4 slides that we would love to be able to share with you. And again, a few dollars has a huge impact. We're talking about funding what has been a vacant position for a pretty long time to address the inequity in underserved communities in our county, because we do a great job. We appreciate the support of the council and the county executive, but we can, we should, and we need to do more. And that's what we're hoping to do. Again, a few dollars goes a long way when you're a small agency. And I turn it over to Samuel to pick up things that I've left out, or Mr. Huckler, if you have any questions. And one last thing, I just want to say, Mr. President, yesterday when you spoke and talked about how you've been through 16 budget cycles, the statistics that you brought were remarkable in terms of how many of those 16 cycles have been mid-year cuts, same budget, things of that sort. We've been floating around as best we can. We spent 4 years in temporary location where we didn't even have consumers' ability to have access to Metro. There's a lot more that we can do if we can just squeeze out a few more dollars.
Thank you. If it's all right with Councilmember Hucker, I'm going to turn to Samuel first and then come to you. Samuel, please. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for all that you do.
Good morning, council members. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today about our small request for a program specialist to support our business compliance unit. As Director Freeman has provided and explained, we want to be proactive and we want to be ACEs. So we have this acronym that we are using to explain what the objectives and goals of our business compliance unit will be. We want to be ACEs. We want to assess the current marketplace. And that means to review the marketplace in totality, to understand the novel ways in which consumers and merchants are interacting. A lot of the consumer protection statutes that we have, a lot of the state, federal, and local laws are in need of serious updating to reflect the accuracies of today's marketplace. We have people who are transacting peer-to-peer over electronic marketplaces that don't interact in the traditional sense that we are used to. So we want to review the marketplace by dedicating a small component of personnel. We would have a program manager that we already have who's already been off. We have a position that we are offering to a candidate. We're in the stages of negotiating that salary. That person would be supported by initially 2 administrative specialists and a program aide. So we want to add to this burgeoning unit a program specialist, which would be a professional grade series personnel to start doing some of this assessment, dedicated resources to be proactive. We have been reactive in nature due to the nature of consumer complaints, but now we want to be proactive, review the marketplace, understand the ways in which consumers and merchants are interacting, and then see if there are to correct any bad actors or any non-compliance that is happening in the unit. We're not a gotcha unit. We don't want to go out there and shake down businesses, large businesses, small businesses. We are a consumer protection agency that wants to correct and educate. And education is that last part of the acronym ACE. We want to educate. Everything that we do is underpinned by education and outreach opportunities to explain to merchants and consumers their rights and obligations under consumer protection statutes. And for instance, there have been a lot of trends that we've been noticing as we've been reconciling and resolving consumer complaints over the past couple of years, particularly during the pandemic. One thing, there's a national increase in real estate activity, home buyers, sellers, house flipping. And in the state of Maryland, it's illegal, it's a crime actually, for a contractor to provide contracting home improvement services if they're not registered with the Maryland Home Improvement Commission. So prior to the pandemic, we were averaging from about July 1st, 2017 through June 30th of 2020, about 21 complaints per year against unlicensed home improvement contractors. Since the pandemic's onset, to the last 2 years, we've seen a 66% increase in complaints against home improvement contractors, unlicensed one. So our department, being built the way we are reactive. We are following up with the complaints we're receiving. But with this unit, what we want to do is to, now that we understand that there's a trend, a general trend that is increasing in people doing it yourself, buying homes, flipping them, trying to take advantage of the marketplace. There are unlicensed people who either don't know or do know that they should be licensed. So our goal would be to do simple things, use the internet in ways in which our consumers use it. Go to Google, go to Yahoo, see who the people are who are advertising their services, who are advertising their different different activities that are governed by the consumer protection statutes, and then make sure that they are licensed. If they aren't licensed, we do simple correspondence. We tell them about their obligations and then requirements, and then advise them and show them how to become in compliance with the law. For those individuals and businesses that aren't receptive or responsive to these initial engagements, we will escalate the activity reasonably to compel compliance. We want to protect consumers out there. We want to protect consumers and ensure integrity in our marketplace. We don't want to just shake down people and then force them to get fines or anything. We really want to educate people how to engage in a new modern marketplace. And so that's some of the quick just substantiation for what we're doing here. We're seeing increases in a lot of non-compliant business activities. And so that's really what we want to do with this position.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councilmember Hawker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with everything you said, Mr. Chairman, about this agency's ability to punch above its weight. It's a cliche I think we use every single year. So I'm glad to hear Eric raise it. It's one of the best days of the year. A lot of the areas that you raised, Eric, home improvement contractors, debt settlement, collection agencies, rent-to-own, payday lenders, they're all regulated by the state, right? And specifically go in front of the Economic Matters Committee and the Consumer Protection Committee there, subcommittee. How much, I agree with the analysis that I feel like there's a big problem out there that we're just scratching the surface of, and that the state has limited resources and that you're an underutilized resource if we could get you more authority. So I guess my question is, how often and do you even meet annually with Delegate Charkoudian, Delegate Queen, and others on that committee, and now the chair is Delegate Queen of that subcommittee from Montgomery County? Could we be working together with our delegation to get you more authority so you could do the work the state aspires to do in protecting consumers?
We do have some communication. Well, first of all, I was appointed by Governor O'Malley and reappointed by Governor Hogan to be on the Collection Agency Licensing Board, which is part of financial regulations unit of the state. But Mr. Hucker, the problem that we have, and you're absolutely correct, many of these agencies or types of businesses are regulated by the state, and we don't need to, repeat that. But the difference is that the state agencies have the same limitation that we do in terms of they react to a complaint as opposed to being proactive. What we could do is we could go out there and report things to the state agencies that we've been able to find so that they can do their enforcement work. It's just inconceivable to us that no one in Montgomery County that uses check cashing or money transmitting services has never had a problem. That's just inconceivable.
Right.
There have got to be people who have cashed a check and had a problem, they've been ripped off, or people who tried to send money to another country and it didn't work. And not one of those people, not one of those million people have ever contacted me or Samuel to say, I need some help.
Right.
Because we don't know what's going on. They don't know about us. We're not reaching out. But if we can identify 5 of those merchants that are unlicensed, we could then report that to the state, have the coordination and the collaboration that you're suggesting to make sure that it gets remedied, because only working on a complaint-generated system is really discriminatory in our view, because we're not helping those people who don't know to call us first.
Right. I would love to help facilitate those conversations, because I feel like they're in the same challenging position that you are, that they're under-resourced, and that most people that are exploited by these businesses don't even know you exist.
Correct.
And if they knew you existed, they might have concerns about reaching out to the government to solve the problem, given their past experience, potentially, for some in their home countries. So yeah, I would love to do that. I mean, some of this might be required postings. I mean, you have a posting in an elevator, you have a posting in, a number of other licensed businesses, but I'm not sure, check cashing places have to even post your number on their wall. Things like that could be required by the state. I think might not be the most difficult bill to pass, but might help to generate the outreach and the phone calls that you're suggesting. What's your and you can elaborate on this later if you want privately, but what's your view on how often the state agencies have the resources to respond to the complaints you do bring them?
They have limited resources as well. Mm-hmm. With COVID, it was even, those were even more limited. But we certainly have working relationships. I mean, being on the Collection Agency Licensing Board, our office, I'm able to meet once a month with mm-hmm. the Commissioner of Financial Regulations. So mm-hmm. once we've established the interaction and rapport, we certainly can work well with them as sister agencies. But again, our hope is to somehow be proactive instead of just always responding, but only responding to those who know that we exist to begin with.
Right. Okay. Yeah, very helpful. As you know, for my colleagues' benefit, your agency was, and Eric, you were able to help me with an unscrupulous home contractor that I had experience with, who disappeared in the middle of my project. And it was eventually mostly resolved by the Home Improvement Commission, 3 years after he disappeared. So I'm glad it existed. On the other hand, it was a little, life lesson to me that they don't have the resources that they need to work through the backlog of cases that they have. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very helpful.
Thank you, Council President Albornoz.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much, Eric and Samuel, for your continued dedication and commitment. Your work makes an extraordinary difference, and your work, especially during the pandemic, helping to address a lot of the scams that had developed that in particular were impacting our senior population, were really important on a number of different levels. So, and I agree with you here. I think this position and the situation involving these residents, many of which are disproportionately our immigrant population, is extraordinary. I did just have a couple of questions. So obviously we're fortunate in Montgomery County to have some really remarkable immigrant serving organizations. How has your interaction been with Identity or CASA or some of the other organizations, Latin American Youth Center, many others, and even our regional service center directors who often come into interaction with different constituents? How is that partnership and alliance? Because if we do move this position forward, obviously I would assume they'd be working closely with organizations like that and others I haven't mentioned. Those are just some examples.
Well, it's a very good point. We do work well with regional service centers directors. They're kind of like having, as you know, a little mayor in each town. So they they have their hand on the pulse and know what the issues are. So that cooperation's been really good. In all honesty, we need to do more with CASA. We've worked and tried to reach out to CASA, but we're hoping to be able to coordinate activities more. And in terms of proactive things, again, we have 3 bilingual investigators in Spanish. We've translated our information into 5 different languages, but we need to do more than just translate our information into different languages. We did pull together a team of volunteers that also speak in many different languages, but we clearly need to work with the faith-based organizations out there, and certainly with CASA. We were hoping to improve that interaction.
And can you describe a little bit the qualifications of the type of person who you would want to hire for a position like this? And would it be difficult, in this environment that we're in right now with recruitment?
It's only a grade 8 team. Let me turn that over to Samuel, because he knows HR speak much better than I do, but he can explain the unit. And again, we can share the PowerPoint with you, or a slide or two. We are able to do the recruitment, and that it will give us the opportunity to make this business compliance unit more than just registering merchants in terms of licensing.
Yes, so the qualifications for this position generally are at grade 18. We want someone who has the ability to explain concisely the existing consumer protection laws and how to get in compliance. So we understand that consumer protection is an area of law that may be not as familiar to most people. So we have the infrastructure to teach and educate and bring up the consumer protection skill set of this position. The things that this position would need to bring are the technical aptitude, abilities to do presentations in PowerPoint and other electronic mediums, and do on-site presentations. Also have organizational abilities. It is a position that will require them to organize information leads that come in, work with the program manager to determine trends, to determine the best effective strategy to resolve or to increase compliance in a wide set of businesses or vendors. So the requirements aren't very specialized. The program manager too, which oversees the position, is a lot more specialized and requires more consumer protection education. But this position would be a professional grade series that would be effectively able to communicate to the consumers, the merchants, and to find ways to bring businesses that are not in compliant to compliant through simple and effective correspondence, desk audits, and sometimes the field work.
Got it. That's helpful. And Mr. Mia, I guess, so the staff recommendation is that we reevaluate, or that we put the position in, but that it begin in January. Can you just clear that up?
Sure. The recommendation is to reevaluate in mid-year.
Okay.
So.
Thanks, Mr. Nain. So I guess I would prefer that it's not an evaluation, but that we move it forward in January, and that way, the Office of Consumer Protection can begin the process of laying the groundwork for the recruitment of this position. That would squeeze out a few more savings, within FY23. But I think given where we've been with the Office of Consumer Protection, and that, we have not added very much or at all to their modest budget for quite some time, I do think, given the set of circumstances that we find ourselves in, I would support moving this forward to begin in January. And then obviously, if the sky falls, we'll have to reimagine, but at that way, there's a higher degree of certainty for this team to be able to begin the planning process.
Was there anything else, Mr. President?
No,
Well, I'm very much in agreement with you. The only thing I would suggest is that we start advertising for this position at the beginning of the budget, because as we know, I see some head shaking, yes, the process takes too long for us to get someone. For us to wait 6 months and then advertise, it's going to take another 6 months, or 4 months, or whatever that number is. So I would suggest that we put this in so that they can, however it's done, Anaim, I believe that we should put this in so that they can start advertising now and then hire, as was suggested. Is there agreement with the council on that, with the committee on that? Yes?
Yes, definitely.
Yes? Very good. Thank you. And then I did see where finally you're starting to get some people that you're actually hiring. I mean, this has been just unbelievable that we have tried our best to get you people, and then you haven't been able to hire them over time. So the fact that you're able to do everything that you do is truly remarkable. It really is. So is there anything else, Niam?
Oh, that should be it.
Well, very good. Thank you all again. Thank you. Thank you. Next up is going to be the alcohol beverage services, and that's going to be followed by their retail refresh. We're very pleased to have Kathy Durbin, who's the director of ABS, with us. John Uttermall, and I forgot to mention from the last note that Julie Knight from OMB was with us as well. We thank her. John Uttermall from the Chief of Administrative Services at ABS, Kent Massey, Chief of Retail Operations at ABS, Courtney Orsini, Management and Budget Analyst, ABS, Estella Bernard de Gomez, who's from OMB, is with us as well. And as we begin, is there any comments from the committee? If not, I'm going to turn to Ms. Durbin.
Just very quickly, Mr. Chairman, I am going to be going off camera in about 5 minutes, but I am on, and I have to quickly deliver the proclamation for the 50-year anniversary of Interfaith Works, but then I will be jumping immediately back on. So, but I will be listening, and I will raise my hand to speak.
I appreciate that. No one was going to accuse you of going to go get a cocktail, even though we're talking about alcohol. Well, maybe I would have accused you, but most people wouldn't.
I can probably use days, but we'll defer after the budget process is done.
That sounds good. Sounds good. With that, Ms. Durbin, I'm going to turn to you, please.
Okay. Good morning. I just wanted to add in the beginning that Amy Saman is with us as well, and she is our I guess I can still call her new division chief of licensure, regulation, and education. So I want to welcome Amy as well.
Well, good, and thank you, and welcome, Amy, and thank you all for everything that you do. Let me say very publicly, Kathy, that you have truly been, you are a great director. I'm very impressed. I stopped by the Cabin John store to see what it might look like, and very impressive, to say the least. So with that, I'm going to turn to Niam to lead us through this packet as well.
Okay. Let's see, I'll just pull it up here. All right, here we go. So the ABS budget overall is increasing by 3% from 66.3 million in FY22 to 68.2 million. Most of that growth is actually occurring in operating expenses, and I'll go into that a little bit. You have a number of one-time costs that are incurring in FY23. On the personnel side, it's about 1.8% increase, and so it's not a significant growth on that side. On the operating expense side, we have a new retail point of sale system with an estimated cost of $2 million in FY23. There was previously $1.1 million budgeted to upgrade the system, but that estimate has increased for FY23 as a specific system has been identified, and so that is a one-time cost in FY23. To do this work. We also have 6 new delivery trucks at a cost of $900,000 in FY23. Last year, 1 delivery truck was approved, and so this year we're essentially catching up, and you'll see by the table on page 2 of the packet, originally 40 trucks were supposed to be replaced since FY17 or calendar 2017. Only 19 trucks were actually replaced. So these 6 new trucks that are planned for 23 are essentially catching up to the original plan that was developed before before the FY19 savings plan and before the pandemic had an impact on this plan. We have $120,000 for replacing 3 forklifts that are currently essentially beyond their useful life. They're quite expensive to maintain, and so 3 new forklifts are planned in next year's budget to replace those existing ones. The risk management costs have gone up by $271,000. Again, essentially, the premiums have basically gone up, and so you're now seeing an increase in that amount. Retail store leases have also gone up $257,000, about 3.65%. We also have IT contracts. These IT contracts are not recurring every year, depending on the contract. They occur anywhere from every 2 to 5 years. But for FY23, we have a number of contracts that are requiring a renewal, and so you have an increase in that amount. Debt service costs, on the other hand, have gone down by almost $2 million as ABS has had some refinancings done recently. I also have for reference the general fund transfer amounts dating back to FY18. You'll see for 23 recommended budget, the general fund transfer for the earnings transfer is $31 million, which is about a little over $3 million more than FY22. That's about an 11% increase. So it's a healthy increase in the earnings transfer. And I also have for reference in the packet sales by retail store between FY18 and FY21, just as a reference item. The FY22 numbers are at this point estimated, so I didn't include those, but you'll see as FY23 closes, we'll have those numbers as well. Other than that, I'm recommending the budget be approved as recommended by the CE. And beyond that, I don't have any other issues with this.
Well, and thank you very much. First off, it is so very necessary. This is a business that creates other businesses and helps other businesses in Montgomery County. We are the source for liquor and spirits. And so therefore, it is so very necessary that we keep up our resources so that not only do we run our business like a business, but that we help the other businesses run their businesses as well. And I know that we have had complaints over the years. Once Ms. Durbin got here, perhaps those complaints have stopped I haven't gotten a complaint on it for a while, but we had trucks that were leaking. And here's somebody that is being delivered cartons of spirits, and the cartons are bad. Breakages occur because of it. It was just no way to run a business. And so I appreciate that. We need to make the investment in our software so that all of this continues. I would, and I appreciate the listing of the sales for the various stores. But I'd like to see, and I think we have seen it before, the profit and loss statements per store for each one. I think that's necessary to make certain that where we are is the price that we should be for the various stores. So if you could please get us that information. And I don't know how we could do this, but I suggest that, we bring back, and we're suggesting that we're going to have a transfer of close to $35 million to the general fund. I think we should earmark some of that money to be how we're going to pay for free ride-on bus service. I believe when people ask, what do I get for you being the county, being in the liquor business, both wholesale and retail, you can go through and explain that, it pays for debt service and it goes, but if they can actually see that we're giving something for that they can actually use themselves if they want to. And that's why I believe, because we had the discussions yesterday about the free service for ride-on buses, I believe we should earmark some of this money, which whatever it would be, it wouldn't be all of it, obviously, about a third, I guess, to pay for those services on ride-on bus. I think it would go a long way. I don't know whether whether a Councilmember Hucker agrees or disagrees, but
I do, yes. I've had a similar suggestion, Kathy, of having, you mentioned in the budget the 6 new delivery trucks. I've had the suggestion from your own employees that why don't we use our delivery trucks to advertise some of our local manufacturers? You know, I mean, it's just empty sides on there, and we could be drawing business, bringing business to them that comes back to us in the form of jobs and tax revenue.
And that's a great one. And there again, perhaps we would charge them for the advertising to paint it on there, or whatever they do, however they put the decal on, but not charge them per month. I mean, we can make this into something that we should be helping each other on.
Right, or the wraps like you can do on a bus. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. So we do have truck wraps on our trucks currently.
Oh, you do? Okay,
for prevention messages. You know, we take a personally campaign, and we have been speaking with some suppliers at this time to look at, you know, different types of truck wraps, but I hadn't thought so much about local. We do a huge local program in our stores now. Kent's done a fantastic job of growing that. So certainly we're not opposed to that at all. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to work with you on that.
And if you ever get stopped behind one of their trucks, you actually will know some of the people whose pictures are on the back of that. It's kind of neat. If it's a long stoplight, you can say, oh, you know, I didn't realize he was on there. Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know.
We've created stars.
Gabe is not jumping in, so still not. Okay.
I'm on, Sydney. I think that's a good idea. I think that, you know, the more we can make this real for people, the better. I'd love to hear staff's evaluation just confirming that doesn't create unintended consequences. But in principle, I completely agree that we need to make this a clear argument for people that are out there that continue to have this misinformation and under Kathy's leadership, as you noted, things really have improved. And I've heard directly from both proprietors, distributors, as well as businesses themselves that things have improved significantly. So we're on the right track.
You and I are right on the same line of thought as well. You know, even in the days when we were getting complaints, candidly, we would have complaints, but then the person would say, but let me tell you, Kathy Durbin is great. That's exactly what they would say. Yeah. Now, I don't know I don't know that Kathy asked him that. I'm kidding, but anyway.
It's always a compound sentence that way. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Well, I after listening to Samuel and Eric and speaking to Eric in the past, all I can say is same. We're really focusing on engagement, consumer engagement, customer engagement, education. Times have changed, people have changed that are in the industry. Whatever we can do to keep our community safe and balance selling this product. And we have in the past had little, enforcement kind of logos of where does your money go, or where does the money go? But it's never been really spelled out. It says, public to support public safety or whatever it might be, but it has never been spelled out in the past.
Thank you. Ms. Beck is beckoning my call. Please, Ms. Beck, please.
Yes, thank you. I do understand the messaging point that you are trying to make about helping people understand the value of those transfers and how there are benefits. The only thing I would say is, always in the budget office, we're a little leery of specifically tying it to particular things. And the one thing I would say is people care about different things. So sometimes it might be useful to say $20 million would buy you X number of childcare subsidies or free ride on, or again, people care about different things. So there might be another way to accomplish that same goal. But I understand your point, which is people need to understand how this benefits the residents of the county.
Well, if we can work together to figure out the best way to go about this, there again, to the council president's thought, we don't want to have unintended consequences, but we do want people to get the message and to realize they're getting a value. So at this moment, we shouldn't change what's in this budget, but we certainly should change our message in as quickly as we can. Anything else on this one, Niall?
No, that should be it. Actually, no, I just wanted to note, and I'll go further into in the next item. ABS is showing a healthy fund balance for FY23 as well as into FY25. We once again starting in FY26, 27, you start getting negative fund balances, but that's far enough away that we can address that as we get closer to those future fiscal years.
Okay. So, and the next topic that we're going to go into, which is the CIP for the refresh for the stores, we can, if there's nothing more for this topic, it's really the same topic with a different continuation. So we're going to, if that's all right with Council Member Hucker, we're going to go to topic number 3, which is the Capital Improvement Program, also known as CIP, for the Alcohol and Beverage Services Retail Refresh. So, Niam, did you want to give us a background on that, and then I'll turn to Kathy?
Sure. So the Retail Refresh Project is funding essentially all major refreshers of all existing liquor stores. There has been a delay in the implementation of the project due to the pandemic. And so, you'll see on page 2 on the table is a current status update of where we are in terms of each location and what fiscal year that's planned. I will note, because of inflation, the cost estimates for in FY23-26 have gone up significantly, about 87% or $3.3 million. Essentially, it's really construction inflation, labor cost inflation is driving these costs up, just like everywhere else we're seeing. However, as I noticed before, the liquor fund is able to support these cost increases for up until FY26 or so, and still have a healthy fund balance. So overall, my recommendation is to approve the CIP as recommended, and that's it, I guess. Also on page 3, we have a status update for FY22 projects, and you'll see that Montrose and Gaithersburg locations are currently underway, whereas a couple of others, Burtonsville, Johnstown, have been delayed as the scheduling is being revised. And so that's it for my end on this one.
Okay, and just so I understand, the Gaithersburg, is that considered Walnut Hill? What is Gaithersburg considered?
So Gaithersburg is 524 North Frederick Road. It's where Panera Bread, Marshall's is at, where the old Toys R Us used to be. So it's going to be our largest location.
So that's a new store.
That's a new store. There were no beer and wine stores in that center or even in that intersection right there. And so that will actually be a full service store. We actually talked to some of the other licensees around there. In fact, I met with the people from Beers and Cheers too about 2 weeks ago and discussed it with them just to make sure, and there's no resistance to us going in there. They don't think that it's going to impact them, but again, it's going to be a focus on spirits, not on beer and wine. There will be beer and wine in that store, but our primary focus will be on spirits.
Right. I would suggest you call it Gaithersburg Square or whatever, because Darnestown is in Gaithersburg. Your Darnestown store is in Gaithersburg. Walnut Hill is, you know what I'm saying. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyhow, so with that, Niam, had you finished? Very busy talking about liquor stores, so I had to jump in there. Go ahead.
No, I have no other further comments.
Okay, then we're going to turn to Kathy, please.
Yeah, only that, and Kent might want to add something. We're very excited about these refresh, the branding, our new brand, and actually, I think Poolsville is next for the actual branding location. Gaithersburg Square is that lease has been signed. Montrose will be remodeled, which is really our #1 store. So that's going to, we're going to be driving people to other stores as that's remodeled, but it's going to be well worth the wait. Hopefully within a couple months, we'll have that completed. So we're really excited about the transformation and the branding process. I think that the businesses and the customers have embraced, the Cap and John look and feel, and we hope to continue to grow that. Kent, did you have anything to add? You're the retail You speak retail better than I do.
I mean, I was so happy to hear that some of you have made it down to Cabin John to see that store. It's actually behind my head, if you can see my background. But
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
That brand, we worked really hard on that new brand and that concept, and we're excited to see it come into Gaithersburg and Montrose especially. That's our busiest store, and that store needs some love. The thing I was talking to Kathy and Marty about yesterday that I'm most excited about is that Cabin John store. If you look at calendar year sales and compare, apples to apples, that store is up 20% from where it was before without cannibalizing any sales from surrounding stores.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just proof and concept that, by improving the look and feel, improving customer service, and improving employee training, we can drive more sales in those stores. So it's really exciting to see the results.
And I like the part that you said earlier, and have said it constantly, that we are a partner with the beer and wine stores as well. That we don't want to take business from them. We want to enhance our business and their business, and restaurants and every other business. So the only other concern I have is about the signage itself. And it's called, is it Oak and Barrel? What's the
Oak, Barrel, and Vine?
I'm somebody who's very simplistic. To me, if there'd be something that said something about beer and wine as well on the door, I think at the Cabin John store, when I was walking in, the signage for the place next door is actually over the door that you walk into for your store. And to me, that gets a little confusing. If you could have something on your door, and there again, you have to work with the shopping center and all that, I understand. But if you could have something actually painted on your door that said, that you're walking into that store, I think that would be helpful as well.
That's great feedback. So certainly something we can look at.
Totally agree. Mm-hmm.
And I understand how some of your sales would be so high. I looked at some of the product that they have in there, and if I were decided to get a second, third, and fourth mortgage, I guess we would buy some of that. But it's pretty impressive, let me tell you. And I guess the question is whether you've sold any of that. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. Anything from you, Councilmember Hucker? Oh, you do. I see your hand up. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Since I know this isn't an oversight hearing, it's a budget hearing, but so I'll try to set up an offline meeting. But the other feedback I'd received, I'm a big supporter of the refreshes, Kathy. I'm excited about the direction of the whole agency. Feedback I received recently, which I'd received before, was from winemakers, inconsistent refrigeration of their products from the time they turn them over through I think the warehouse was okay, but still concerned about the trucks, and maybe that's being addressed by the purchase of the new trucks. But then I spoke to some winemakers, local ones, who said, I want to deal with the private beer and wine stores, not with ABS, because ABS puts my product that I've worked hard for right in the window exposed to the sun. And, it ruins my hard work. And that they should invest in, since we're talking about refreshes, invest in shades or whatever, or put them in a different part of the store or whatever to protect my product, because they don't protect my product.
You might want to address that, because I feel like that's changed.
Yeah,
maybe it's outdated.
I
know it's outdated. I just received it like 2 weeks ago.
So I will tell you, and this is part of the refreshes, but again, in that our focus is definitely more on the spirits, on the wine, but we are very supportive of local Maryland products. So we will always have local Maryland wine. We will always have local beers. But if you look at the new setup of our stores, those items are in the back of the store or in a Maryland-made section on the right-hand side as you come in, but they're not in that front window section anymore. But I specifically know of 3 or 4 stores that are on the remodel schedule that are set up exactly the way you're talking about. One of them was Aspen Hill. We invested in blinds for Aspen Hill to try and negate that issue, but those issues will also be fixed in the remodels. So I haven't gotten any of those complaints directly to me, but I would love to talk to those people. Like, if you want to set up an offline meeting where I would be happy to have a conversation with those people and help support their needs as well.
Kent, I'll definitely take you up on that. Thank you for the offer.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying true of the Silver Spring store? Because I think the concern came from the Silver Spring store.
So the Silver Spring store is mine and Kathy's favorite. So it is getting some love next year. It is not on the remodel schedule because we do these when the lease renewals come up. But we've agreed that we're going to put some money into that store next year regardless. Just it needs some help. And absolutely that would be one of the stores where wine is towards the main avenue in Silver Spring. It's that huge window front there that we are going to invest in some refreshes in that store without doing a full remodel until their lease comes up.
Oh, so you're saying when you say the main aisle, I mean, you kind of come in on the side there.
When you come in from the street, if you come in from the street instead of that back parking lot entrance,
right.
Like those windows there's wine right up in that section.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's what he's talking about. Okay. So
we're looking at blinds. We're looking at blinds for that store that can be pulled when it's, at a 45-degree angle. So you still can see in because the police and the landlord want you to be able to see in, but protect the product better as well.
What about putting the product farther back away from the sun?
Absolutely something we can do. And we have some category management resets that are coming up that we do annually. And that's something that we can explore at that time as well.
Great. Yeah, no, it seemed like such a shame to have some of our local manufacturers.
Absolutely.
And
like I said, I would love to talk to them because
them.
we're trying to help grow that business as much as we can. So I'd love to have a conversation with them.
Appreciate that. Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you for the answer and the dialogue. That's all necessary. Is there anything else, Niam, on this one?
That should be it.
Very good. Well, thank you again. Thank you for doing what you are doing and helping to turn this around. And we have some ideas that we'd like to continue to explore to see if the public will also understand what we're trying to do. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. Next, we're going to do collective bargaining agreements with the Montgomery, the MCV, MCV FRA, which, by the way, stands for Montgomery County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association. We have Chief Goldstein here. I don't know whether Eric is Eric.
I see his icon.
You see his icon. I don't see his icon. There we go. We see more than his icon. We see him. How about that? Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. Bernard. How are you? Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
Before we begin, Councilmember Hucker, do you have anything to
No, I'm good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for asking.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Chief Goldstein and welcome. I did want to welcome Chief Goldstein as well. And Eric Bernard here as well. And do either of you have any opening comments, please?
Well, I'll take the opening comment and identify that Jennifer Harlan is here from OLR and ask her to take any comments.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Ms. Wellens actually did the packet, and she did a wonderful job. We sincerely appreciate that. And do you want to lead us through the packet, Ms. Wellens? How do we want to do this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and hello to everyone. Hello, committee members. I think it would be fine. I mean, if Ms. Harling would like to make any preliminary comments, I think that would be great. I'm also happy to try to lead the committee through the packet. I'll note we also have Mr. Heffling from the Office of the County Attorney to assist with any questions that the committee might have.
Okay, and thank you, and I should have mentioned that as well. Ms. Harling, did you have any opening comments?
I don't actually have any opening comments, but I'm certainly here and available for answering any questions.
Thank you. And Mr. Heffling, did you have anything else? No?
Not at this time. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Thank you. Let us all say up front how much we appreciate the volunteers for the fire department and other volunteers as well. But especially for the fire department, you truly save lives. And we, as we mentioned yesterday when we were giving an award to a police officer that saved a plane load of people when he was coming back from LA. We take it for granted, and it's the same for our career firefighters as well. We should not. We should be always so appreciative of the career and volunteers, and we are. We sincerely thank you for what you do. And with that, Ms. Wellens, if you could please lead us through.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so the purpose of this work session is for the committee to review and make recommendations to the full council on a proposed resolution, either approving, or you have the opportunity to approve or reject the specific items in the collective bargaining agreement between the county and MCV FRA with respect to fiscal year 2023. And the terms of the agreement that are before the committee for review are fairly similar to the ones that you saw last year. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'll start on page 2 of the staff memorandum, just because that just describes kind of, I think, the easiest to describe items first, and the ones with the least amount of changes to the ones with the greatest amount of changes. With regard to training, the agreement is unchanged from 2022. And I would also invite, just as an aside, Mr. Chair, Ms. Harling or Mr. Hepling, if I misstate anything, please feel free to jump in. I don't want to be giving incorrect information. So again, with training, some funds are required, a total of $15,000 towards training, and this is the same as FY22. And the volunteer basic orientation course also does not have any increased fiscal impact for FY23 over FY22. The items that are listed on page 1 of the staff memorandum are the ones with an increased fiscal impact for FY23. One is the association operating funds. There's an increase of about $14,000 over FY22. Then in terms of the nominal fee, which volunteers can receive, there is an increase in the nominal fee, small increase there, and then the fiscal impact is about $74,000 FY23 over FY22. And then the slightly more complicated issue to explain is just that is an issue that requires legislation, and it relates to the length of service awards. And that one, you did look at this last year as well, and the executive submitted legislation last year that the council passed to expand and increase the LoSAP benefits. So this is kind of some additional sort of cleanup legislation this also slightly expands the eligibility of who receives the LoSAP benefits. As I understand it, it does so in a way that was actually originally intended for last year, and that didn't happen. So this is sort of a cleanup legislation that the executive has proposed. And the expected increase in LoSAP expenditures, stemming from this legislation, the increase from FY23 over FY22 would be $1,612. Happy to try to explain anything further, Mr. Chair. And of course, we have many folks here to answer any questions the committee may have.
First of all, I think it should be known we introduced the legislation yesterday, or today's Wednesday. We introduced the legislation yesterday about the length of service. So that's certainly, and I think it should be noted that you said it was for $1,612. That's what this discussion would be about. So I'm supportive of this as it exists. I've gotten a text from Council President, and he is supportive as well. Councilmember Hucker, are you on? I see your picture, but I don't. Are you there, Tom? Tom, are you there?
I am, sorry.
Not a problem. Believe me, we understand that's been that kind of a day.
Yeah.
Are you okay with the as written?
I am. I think it's great. Thank you.
Very good. So unless Mr. Bernard is going to try to talk us out of it, I think this should pass us 3-0. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Nellens?
Thanks, Scott.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to turn to what has become the last item on our agenda today, which is the operating budget for the Fire and Rescue Services. And we're very pleased to have Chief Goldstein with us. And we certainly thank he and everyone in his department for everything that they do as well. We're being joined by Dominic Del Pozo, the division chief, as well as Rachel Silverman from the OMB, Office of Management and Budget. And Chief, did you have any opening statements?
Sure, thank you, Councilmember Katz. As a tag on to Eric and Kathy's statement, same articulation as our department's, mission is keeping the community safe, keeping our members of the organization safe, aiming to prevent the 911 call first and foremost, and then if and when there's a need for the visitors or residents in the community to reach out for 911 and emergency response, respond quickly and with highly trained, properly equipped career and volunteer personnel. So the 2,700 plus folks of MCFRS are here for that. Also with me today, as I look at the little dots here, are Chief Cooper, Chief Kinsley, Chief Kelly from Support Services, Human Resources, and Volunteer Services. And I also see Chief Sherburne and President Jensen, I believe, from Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad. But great team here to help the committee in any questions you have.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for all the lists that the Chief Goldstein just mentioned, for everything that you do for us every day as well. Councilmember Hucker, do you have any opening statements? If not, I'm going to ask Ms. Farag to lead us through.
I don't, Mr. Chairman. As always, I'm very grateful for all your hard work and sacrifice and service. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Farag, and once again, has done a fabulous job of doing a packet. And if she could please lead us through.
Yes, good morning, everybody. For FY23 for the fire department, the proposed recommended budget is $252 million. That's a 7.9% increase from last year, and it includes almost 34 new positions. It's 33 positions full-time and 1 part-time position. There's also, which is very significant, a new source of funding, which will be an ongoing annual source of additional funding for the fire department, coming from the Maryland Emergency Service Transporter Supplemental Payment Program. They are expecting a little bit over $9 million for that in FY22. It'll come as a lump sum. They're projecting sometime in May or June. And then they're calculating $11 million of reimbursement for FY23. And it's that additional revenue stream upon which much of this budget increase is based. So there's an explanation on page 3 about the ESPP program. The state actually applied for an amendment to their Medicaid plan, and that became effective October 2020. And then MCFRS actually qualifies as the type of transporter that qualifies under this program, so they will get reimbursed for the uncompensated care of a Medicaid patient transport. So currently Medicaid reimbursement is $100 regardless of the actual charges. And the fees that are charged for EMS transport fees for all different categories are on a chart on page 4. So when that $9.3 million is received for FY22, the county executive will submit a supplemental appropriation outlining its funding allocations for that. So of this $11 million lump sum distribution for FY23, $4.6 million is supporting uniform and civilian staffing increases, and $3.7 million addresses ongoing structural budget deficiencies. The balance of that funding supports additional staffing, ESPP administrative costs, and some leased space enhancements at Dover Road and the mental health unit. Additionally, the recommended budget is distributing 15% of the new ESPP payment, or $1.65 million, to the LFRDs in a manner that's similar to the EMST fees. In order to support this new funding stream, there is an additional ESPP administrative specialist added to the budget. That's required to ensure that the ESPP funding is appropriately accounted for, including both direct and indirect costs, and submit the required state cost reports. And that position was $70,000. There's also an audit requirement for this program, and that is expected to cost about $50,000. So moving on to one of the topics that we talk about every year is addressing structural deficits in the fire department budget. While they've had a structural budget deficit in overtime for several years, recently it's also been experiencing some cost overruns in certain operating expenses. And you just received a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $13.9 million, which the council did approve. Most of that is funding their projected overtime cost overruns, but it also included about $4.8 million to address operating expenditures. And again, we've had this conversation before, what's driving these deficits, right? So for overtime, we know that it's caused by insufficient staffing. There was a county stat net annual work hour update report in 2018 that identified the need for 180 additional uniformed firefighters to meet minimum staffing requirements without the use of overtime. And the county executive has taken steps over the past several years to address these deficiencies, and they're listed on page 6. In FY20, he added 20 firefighter positions and $2.2 million in the overtime budget to reflect several years of general wage adjustment increases. In FY21, he proposed 20 additional paramedic training positions. Those, however, were not approved by council due to the COVID-related maintenance of services budget policy that they had set because revenues had fluctuated and had dived so deeply. In FY22, they added 10 paramedic training positions, which were approved by council. And in FY22, they also civilianized one facilities maintenance position, and that allowed a firefighter to return to the field. So this has also been an ongoing process within the fire department to identify different tasks that can be civilianized and convert those and return firefighters to the field. FY23 proposes something similar by civilianizing 2 positions and allowing 2 detailed captains to return to the field. So as I mentioned before, they do have this new revenue stream, and it is going to better address operating costs, but it is not really looking at the overtime concerns. For FY22, there is a general wage adjustment. It was supposed to be 1.5% in June, but it's going to be 2.25% in June because there was a provision in their agreement that increased their general wage adjustment if the CPI went over 1.5%, and it did. It went over by quite a bit, so the 2.25% has been triggered. This was unfunded originally in the FY23 recommended budget, and it's $860,000. However, the county executive did just submit budget amendments last night, which does include appropriate funding for this. So I did want to point that out. However, even though it's reflecting a wage increase, it's not really affecting how this might impact overtime costs, because when salaries go up, obviously when people work overtime, the overtime costs are going to go up. So for operating expenditure overruns, again, that supplemental appropriation that you approved added $4.8 million. This FY23 recommended budget also includes additional funding, $3.7 million, to address these operating structural deficits. So total funding in these categories is more accurately reflecting now historic spending, and there's a chart on page 7 showing the recommended increases in each category. For operational enhancements, I'd mentioned before, there are over 33 positions. Most of this is going toward enhancing emergency management services because that is the bulk of the work that the fire department does. There's a list of the different positions on page 7. The first one they're adding is an EMS capacity officer, which the committee discussed before. These 5 FTEs create one 24/7 position, and that helps coordinate patient transport to hospitals and balance emergency department patient volumes. The department had provided this service during prior COVID surges, but just having it permanently in general will help both EMS transports and hospital emergency departments run more efficiently. The next addition is an EMS Duty Officer, again for 5 FTEs, which will enhance advanced life support field supervision. The department currently has 2 duty officers, and ideally the department would have 5, 1 for each battalion. This additional position will help reduce medical errors in the field, and it works with hospitals to help return EMS units back into service more quickly. They're also adding a Paramedic Chase Car, this one at Station 1 in Silver Spring, to serve the Silver Spring area. It takes 5 FTEs. This is a more efficient way of providing medical services to the community. And the fire department has, as you know, a paramedic on all engines and has 3 full-time Paramedic Chase Cars, one at Station 25 in Aspen Hill, one at the Wheaton Rescue Squad, and one at Station 8 in Gaithersburg. And in addition, there are 2 other Paramedic Chase Cars that operate part-time, including one at Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad and one at Rockville Station 3. The next addition is a flexible EMS resource, and I mischaracterized this even after talking to OMB yesterday. It is not identified as a day work ambulance. It could possibly be that, but what they wanted to do is add 5 FTEs into the budget now so they can go through the academy, and the department's currently conducting a data analysis on its different needs, and at that time, based on that data, they will identify what the most appropriate use of these 5 FTEs will be. The next item is a battalion chief quality management position. They currently have 1 battalion chief that oversees EMIHS operations, and this second one would help oversee quality management for EMS services. The next 2 positions are civilian positions, again supporting EMS services. Logistics Program Manager 2, that position will support ordering, management, and distribution of medical supplies and allow for the return of a captain to the field. And an EMS Supply Technician, and that position stocks and distributes the EMS supplies. That work is currently being performed on overtime backfill. And the next addition is 2 paramedic firefighter positions for Mobile Integrated Health Services. That unit, as you know, works with high-frequency 911 callers to link them to appropriate services and better manage health. It currently has 4 civilian positions, and it uses overtime backfill for the paramedic services. And those 2 positions would add consistent paramedic services to the unit. The next group of enhancements deals with first responder health and mental health. They add 1.75 positions, which adds a therapist and an administrative aide. Those positions will provide mental health support and help manage administrative functions such as scheduling and records management. The department currently does have 1 psychologist and 1 therapist. There's an increase to the FROMS contract, that's Fire and Rescue Occupational Medical Services, and that's a joint program between the fire department and OHR that provides a variety of wellness services to the department. This contractual increase supports additional work in the division. The mental health lease, the department's expanding leased space for its mental health unit at additional cost. And then the other operational enhancements include supplementing volunteer staffing, that's at Station 40 in Sandy Spring. It will detail 4 firefighters to supplement their night and weekend volunteer staffing. That staffing will help reduce failures to respond. It's assumed in these calculations that 1 volunteer will return, but that 1 of the positions will be a permanent career firefighter. The next addition is unlapsing an existing program manager 2 position for $80,000 to promote the integration of volunteer and career fire and rescue activities. The next program manager is in small tools. That is in the small tools program with the fleet. It'll return a captain to the field who's currently detailed to perform those functions. And lastly, special operations warehouse space cost, lease increase cost, because they are increasing the warehouse space at Dover Road by 16,000 square feet. For recruit classes, FY23 includes funding for 84 recruits. 87 address attrition, 57 address attrition, and 27 address new FY23 recommended positions. This budget also abolishes 14 long-term vacant positions. These positions have not been filled or funded, so there is no real savings for that. There's a list of those positions on page 10. I briefly touched on the MCBFRA agreement. Christine went through all of that with you. The increases necessary to fulfill the requirements of that agreement are going to increase costs by $89,000 in FY23, which is included in the recommended budget. For the EMST fund on page 11, again, 20 million has been budgeted for this fund, with 2.8 million approximately that'll be distributed to the volunteers. The next item is one that you've dealt with in the past few years too, which is for the Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad. The department currently pays for certain LFRD costs, such as commercial insurance, workers' comp, utilities, and fuel. And historically, Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad has paid their own. However, in the past several years, they've been requesting that the department cover these items in a manner similar to the other LFRDs. And so I give just a little bit of the history of what they've requested and what's been funded. They've got a request back this year. It's attached at circles 17 through 19, and they're requesting that funding be added to the department's budget for additional fleet maintenance and additional building maintenance costs. Councilmember Friedson has also submitted a letter in support of additional funding, and that's on circles 20 and 21. I don't have an exact cost of these services, but they've provided their experience for the past 3 years, and it should be approximately $150,000. If the department or OMB has a different number, it would be helpful to understand that. But I am recommending that this money be added to the operating budget to provide funding parity among the LFRDs. And if it is approved by council, they'll be receiving about $481,000 annually for services. As you recall, the executive wanted to conduct racial equity audits for both the police department and the fire department back in 2020, I believe, and the council approved the police department audit. They deferred funding on the audit for the fire department until the fire departments had an approved scope of work before they went out on bid to get this program. And they decided to break down the audit in 2 different pieces. One would be an operational audit, and the other one would deal with diversity and racial equity assessment of the department, their programs, policies, procedures, and resource allocation. And that is the audit that has been awarded now. The audit is costing $96,000, and they have contracted with National Academy of Public Administration to conduct a comprehensive equity assessment. They had a kickoff meeting for that March 22nd. And the final report is expected in September. And I've listed the different elements that the consultant is going to perform for the department on pages 11 or 12 and 13. So now the trickier part is with the outstanding budget issues. There's been a lot of movement both at the state and local level, dealing with some potential funding sources for the department. State Senate Bill 295. Which is an enrolled bill, has expanded Medicaid reimbursement to include both medical services provided in response to a 911 call in situations when the recipient is not transported to a facility, and also provide reimbursement for mobile integrated health services. So beginning in fiscal 23 for the state, the reimbursement rate must increase to $150. That'll happen October 1st. The potential fiscal impact to the county include obviously increasing the EMS treatment and transportation reimbursement for Medicaid patients, but also expanding that reimbursement to MIH services. We've got some rough estimates from the fire department, but I'm still working on trying to figure out better projections. They have, of the 90,000 EMS calls they had last year, I believe 20,000 were not transported. So those 20,000 calls are ones that may be eligible for additional reimbursement. And they have less than 1,000 calls right now for mobile integrated health services. We'll try to get a better number on that to see how that might impact funding as well. Yeah, we just talked about the IFF general wage adjustment, which is $860,000, and the county executive has added money as a budget amendment for that. I just added the IAFF retirement modification, which doesn't impact this discussion. This is just an FYI. And again, the SPP funds are a lot of moving parts. Again, they'll get over $9 million this year, and it would be helpful for the committee to understand what they intend to use that money for when it comes over as a supplemental appropriation. And 15% is distributed to provide LFRD's money in a similar manner to the EMST program. So due to the fact that we've had some discussion about this budget and concerns about whether or not future years should be built on one-time funding and what we think as council staff are pretty volatile tax revenue projections, right? We don't necessarily think what we're seeing this year is what we'll see in future years. And we want to try to to prevent savings plans in the future, which, as you know, as Public Safety Committee, also disproportionately impact the fire department because of their overtime budget structural deficiencies. So I have proposed two different alternative uses of the ESPP funds. And my preference is given to addressing the long-term structural budget deficits. I do feel that this new funding source should be used to address those overages, at least in FY23. The department, again, will receive the $9.3 million this year and $11 million next year. The executive has included $3.7 million of this money to address operational budget deficiencies, but the overtime problem is left unaddressed. So it would be helpful if the committee could understand what the department believes are realistic overtime costs for FY23. And if there is a projected cost overrun, council staff recommends retaining the $1.65 million and using it to address staffing more appropriately in a manner that will address or reduce cost overruns. And if the overtime is budgeted appropriately for FY23, committee may also wish to use the $1.65 million instead to reduce overall county spending. The department could retain the $1.65 million and take a corresponding reduction in the fire tax funds. Again, my preference at this point is to address internal fire department structural deficits, which is option 2. And I have listed my council staff recommendations on page 15. Again, that is supporting the Bethesda Chevy Chase Rescue Squad with $150,000 in parity with the other LFRDs, and taking into consideration the use of the $1.65 million of the SPP funds to better address structural deficits within the department. Chair Katz, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. What is the reality of us hiring these, of getting people that we can actually, to recruit people that we can actually hire for these positions?
Good, positive, active work in progress.
Could you explain that a little further then, please?
Absolutely. So no, we aiming for, as Ms. Farag outlines, and we've worked with OMB on, aiming for 84 graduates in the FY23 budget is very much within the capacity of the hiring training process and in the capacities of MCFRS. Through the impacts of COVID, the restrictions of or the inabilities to do in-person based recruiting, there's been a downturn. That had occurred before, or we started seeing a downturn in the number of applications for the open hiring process before COVID. The recruiting battalion chief's position is active and very busy out there with a diverse team of folks at in-person events, showing people what they can do and how the fire service can be their profession and how they can be great providers to the community. So this number of folks, 84 or 100 people onboarded, 84 graduates in a year, absolutely doable.
So bottom line, you think we could actually hire these people? I mean, do you think that they will, that you will be able to recruit them and they will be able to be hired, that they'll get through the academy and be hired?
Yeah, so we already have the process in place. RC 51, which is the group that's slated to start in September. We're planning for 2 classes, one that's previously trained in that roughly 10 to 12 week period, which starts in September, followed by RC 52, which will be a cadre that will do the full 26 weeks. Does not need to have the Fire 2 and emergency medical technician previously held certifications. That again starts in January. That process is already underway. We have already come close to completing the 12 weeks of CPAT for the folks for RC 51, and the folks for RC 52 are beginning to start that. So we're on pace to support both 51 and 52 as we believe it is outlined through this budget cycle, and have no concerns about getting, you know, those folks in this year and trained.
Okay, very good. Susan, when the whole idea for, and we have these conversations every year about the overtime, at some point and beyond, I mean, obviously, we want people to answer the call and be refreshed and be able to answer the call in a proper manner. But at some point, overtime versus hiring people, some overtime is not a terrible thing from a budgetary standpoint. You know what I'm trying to drive at here. So do we have an idea where that, what they used to call graph paper, where that spot on the graph paper actually comes together, that it's from a budgetary standpoint makes sense to have some overtime?
I think those are kind of two different questions. You should budget for overtime,
yes,
right? You should know what is a reasonable amount of overtime as far as putting those butts in seats for 308 seats that they need staffed every day to run the different pieces of apparatus that they've got, right? So that's one question. Can they predict that? They can reasonably predict what that's going to be, right? So there's different, you know, unless it's a pandemic, that made things a little weird. But, you know, generally there's a certain amount of sick leave taken. Generally there's a certain amount of light duty that's going on, you know, and so on and so on. They generally have an idea. So it'd be helpful to understand what that, you know, more realistic projection is of overtime. On my side of the street, as the council analyst, I would feel better if the overages were down closer to 1 or 2 million a year. I would feel better with that. Okay. Instead of 7 or 8 or 9.
Okay. Council Member Hucker has his hand up, please.
I do, if it's my turn. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, great to hear that you're confident you'll be able to fill those new slots. How many were in the last recruitment class?
FY22, the number is 76, I believe. I'm gonna
okay, it was that high. Okay,
to Rachel or Dominic, I believe the number approved in this year F22 was 76 positions, and those people are the second part of that class, RC50, is in active process and graduates at the end of June.
So you're only going up from 76 to 84. Okay, good. That's less of a delta than I thought. Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
76, Rachel or Dominic?
Sounds like it's very close. I'm not sure if that's the exact number.
I won't hold you to it. So in that 76 that were not just approved, but actually you were able to hire?
They're in place. We'll see what the final graduate capacity is of the class.
Sometimes my staff surprised me as well. Yes, I get it. But that's what you've been able to recruit on the front end. Okay. Can I ask you about, I imagine this is like an HR rule or something, but I'm heartened that you'll be, you know, you've gotten that many this year, because I thought it was farther, it was a smaller number. Maybe I'm just, you know, reflecting on the tiny police graduation ceremony. But I had somebody reach out to me that was coming from a position of a lot of responsibility in another public sector job recently, applied to you and reached out to me about some other local issue. And I asked, how's it going in your, because he applied to be a Montgomery County firefighter. And he said he's choosing between, in his career path, between Montgomery, Prince George's, and Howard. And I think he'd been offered a position by the others, but not Montgomery. And he said he went through the whole process this year, testing and interviewing, didn't make the cut, reapplied again for the next recruitment class, really preferred Montgomery, so hopefully this time will come through. I've talked to a lot of firefighters, and they said to be patient because it takes a few times to get through often. And that was a little bit of a surprise to me for a high-performing guy. I don't know anything about his physical fitness or anything, but he's, I'm sure, more physically fit and younger than I am, and you know, probably higher aptitude as well. But the thing that surprised me was I asked, did they give you feedback on where you fell short so you could work on those things, whether, and he said, no, I asked the investigator who did my interview and also the recruiter, and they weren't at liberty to say, which I don't understand. So here's a guy working hard to make the cut, not questioning your judgment at all, but he doesn't know what to work on, whether it's carrying a heavier load, doing more pull-ups, or, scoring better on a written test. Is that an HR barrier, or is that your agency?
No.
Rule.
No, and there's so many different variables there. I don't want to say this is why. So to the point about the ability to carry heavier things, the candidate physical agility test, the CPAT test, is a pass-fail circumstance. So as a member has 12 weeks of mentoring, up to 3 attempts to pass that exam, that is a pass-fail situation. They schedule those attempt 1, 2, or 3 at their own pace. We offer it almost every Saturday throughout that 12-week cycle. And they again, based upon how they go through mentoring, we offer mentoring 3 times a week. And as they're ready to attempt that test, they pass. So the ability to succeed at the CPAT test is one of the first triggering points.
Okay.
Because they do not enter the background process until they have completed the CPAT test.
Okay.
Yep. Once they're at the background process, here I'm at Edison Park headquarters. They come here to talk to one of the background investigators, do that work. The process is collaborative. The member bringing information, the member providing the information as requested, interviewing with the investigator, and then the investigator going through and doing a rather thorough background touching base with references, touching base, checking a lot of resources. We then have SPs, or selection panel, as we acronym it. We have the selection panel functioning almost on a bi-weekly basis throughout the hiring process, because as you just demonstrated, Councilmember Hucker, we know these candidates are in the pool for different organizations at the same time.
Right.
And if we can give Charlie Brown a conditional offer as soon as possible for Montgomery, they may indeed accept our offer. So in the sequence of getting people to complete the background, them to be ready, having multiple candidates, a handful of candidates ready for the selection panel to meet, the selection panel will meet, review those applicants and their material, and decide, are we going to offer a conditional offer to this member? Charlie Brown is my example.
Sure. Yeah.
And as soon as we have the means to offer them one of the spots in RC 51 as a point, they will get that communication via OHR and the fire department. It's a partnership there. Then that member does move forward to the medical evaluation. They have to go to OMS/FROMS for that medical exam. So there's still one more big hurdle that they have to complete prior to being ready to sit or to be a seat or butt filler at the academy. So when you get down to the feedback part, that's a delicate balance, because not talking about Charlie Brown specifically, but the questions get to be, what makes that member a better candidate, or what makes that member a person that can be a good fit to MCFRS? We hire a great number of folks. There's a lot of opportunity here, and it's one that we field calls frequently from members who have that question. We touch base with either the recruiting battalion chief or the administrative specialist with the hiring process, or the OHR specialist, to ask that question, and we provide as much as we can. without jumping into or providing information that is inappropriate to him or her, the candidate.
Sure.
So I appreciate that person's desire to be a part of MCFRS. I also appreciate their desire that, yes, indeed, depending upon original entry score, depending upon their offer to go forward to the CPAT process, it may take a time or two before they're actually sitting here on the second floor at Edison Park with the interview or with the background person at that key point prior to being offered in front of a selection panel.
That's really helpful. It's all probably stuff I should know, but I appreciate going through it, even though it's in the budget hearing here. So in your view, do you feel like we lose any qualified candidates to Howard, Prince George's, DC?
Yeah.
Because we have a slower process, or because we have higher standards or something? What's your?
It's all about timing. It's not a specifically slower process. It's not specifically a higher standard. The process may be that we start, let's just pick arbitrarily February to try to sit the class in September, because it's almost a full 5 to 6 months from the time the person sits in class that we physically have to start the physical agility process and get all that accomplished. So if Howard County is aiming to fill a class in May or June, they're going to start just 2 months before us. Mm-hmm. And they may get that conditional offer just before us. The other component there is, indeed, some folks do take the first offer they get and then continue to go with other offers. Maybe my neighboring chiefs, we all collaborate with each other. We all know each other's are hiring, pretty large number of folks, and we know that we do take a little bit from others at each time, give or take. So the opportunities, we do know that we're just above midpoint in the salary of comparison to all of our organizations throughout the region. That's definitely important for us to keep a track of and ensure we're not lagging behind on that arena. And the other opportunity that is offered in Montgomery Fire is a lot more type of services and a lot more variety of services. So fire and EMS organization, with all of the specialty capabilities that we do have, that does draw, with the benefits provided by Montgomery County, that does draw people from some of our other neighboring, public safety organizations.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Oh, sorry. One last question. I knew I had another. Is there anything, I appreciate what you said about the collaborative relationship you have with the HR department. Is there anything that HR could be doing or we could be doing to expedite or untangle the HR requirements to expedite your hiring process?
We don't think so. Okay. Team has been working on this pretty focused here again recently. As a good time and cycle to review and modify. One question that would likely come from a educated party is, why not have open application? Why not have an open application period continuously, as opposed to an open period for 2 weeks once a year?
Yeah.
And I understand both sides of that. We do have, and we have been on an annual cycle, and the late December, early January timeframe. That is when MCGov, MCFRS opens applications, and that way our recruiters, all of our men and women of service, can tell their friends, their people they meet, go to this website, we will be hiring, we'll be taking applications roughly in the December timeframe. Gives a good mark for the people to know about. Knowing that, switching to the other model as an example, continuous open application, all that would do would be getting a party into a queue and having their information, because again, we wouldn't be moving them forward from today, April, to processing until almost next February or next January as a test. So it's not, it's pretty much a shell description of open hiring or continuous hiring when you're really doing the entrance exam in a one period time.
All right, very helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Katz, can I answer back one question?
Absolutely, Chief. You're the chief. You can do what you would like. Please.
I don't know. Your question, I think, was posed to Susan, and
okay.
I've been a broken record. I think you can find video of prior conversations about this.
No.
It is page 6. You asked the question is what is the balance of overtime to positions? I used the numeric of the 180 that county stat identified in the 2018 study, that there is absolutely no good decision to fill that to 100%. I believe the balance is 50% of that gap. I believe that of the 180, if we were to aim towards filling 90 of those positions, we would then be able to do exactly what Ms. Farag outlined, is manage and predict our overtime with good assurity and good accuracy. She outlined on the top of page 6 that we have gotten 30 positions towards that 90. And that was with the F-20, followed by the F-22 positions, 20 and 10 respectively. So one of my original statements to you all at a different time and place, table wherever we were, is that every time we add these positions, we need to then let those positions bake in the department. We just can't add them and expect the overtime to go down immediately. So even the 10 positions that are in this year's budget, they don't graduate until June. Those positions do not make an impact in field staffing until basically the beginning of F-23. So we would then basically be evaluating the calendar 23 overtime numbers to see an incremental reduction in the amount of field backfill because of the 10 additional FTEs we got. So doing it in chunks of 30, 30, and 30 as a point would get us to that right spot. It was gonna be, prior to any other delays, you know, every bit of almost a 5-year process before we could say the right number was 60 or 80 or 90 or some balance between what that right number was or is. The other thing that we've had a lot of deliberate discussions as 3 parts, OMB, fire rescue, and a discussion with our police partners, is we do have the ability in future budget years, as the consolidation at the 911 center is advanced, to bring those uniformed positions back to fire rescue. I'd like to see that we utilize those positions as offsets to this gap, not adjustments to our base and our base recruit class needs, because that in upon itself, it gives us a quick, already trained, 30, 35, 40 positions that are going to come back into fire rescue. That's a reduction in roughly 9 seats a day that are no longer filled by uniformed folks. And then we won't have to hire them. We won't have to train them and do that training cycle to see an impact. So that could be the next big adjustment we see towards this county stat net annual work hour gap, is in the latter 24, beginning of 25 FY. Ms. Silverman, anything on that as we've dialogued?
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. And just to give you some numbers, we are expecting up to 40 uniform staff at ECC to be available to bring back to the department to return and start filling some of that additional overtime strain that they're having.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Bernard.
Thank you, Chairman Katz. I appreciate it. Just wanted to note 2 things. That when you talk about the hiring, the effect that it has on the volunteer ranks, in the budget book, it's on Circle 9 of the package. It shows that in 2021, 10 trained volunteers were hired. They're estimating between 12 and 20 with each class are hired from the volunteer ranks. Now, when you look and you say, well, we have over 1,400 certified, the 10 to 20 that they do hire tend to be highly trained and active volunteers. So we've already put them through the basic training, plus their drivers, their paramedics. So that takes a significant hit on our 19 volunteer departments. I just want you to be cognizant of that, where it's a plus for MCF for us, and we support that. Anybody that loves this and wants to do this full time, we support, and we recognize that as part of our job is to be a conduit for the career service, and we want them to stay with Montgomery County. It does hurt us, and it is difficult. And secondly, we support this budget, the chief and BCC's request. So thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, and I support the BCC and this budget as well, and the council staff recommendations. But thank you for pointing that out. I see that the council president is back. Did you have any final comments here? We're sort of winding up.
No, just expressing my deepest appreciation. I appreciate Councilmember Hucker's questions with regards to recruitment, and appreciate the chief's confidence in filling those positions. I know we set a very high standard here, and while things remain competitive, thanks to his leadership and that of his team and our volunteer corps, which has just been so extraordinary, I think we've got a really good structure, and we want to do everything we can to support all of you.
Very good. So I think Susan, we need to specifically vote on the BCCR's request.
Yes.
Okay.
That would be an item that goes on the reconciliation list.
Very good. Is there a motion to support BCCR?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, I have a feeling it's going to be unanimous. It's 3-0. Thank you very much. Yeah. And is there anything else that we need to specifically do, or are we good?
Well, if you want to consider my 1.65 million, you could vote on that. Otherwise, if you wanted to recommend approval of the rest of the budget as submitted, you can do that too.
Well, on the 1.65 million, I'm a little confused. Do we do it for right now? How does that work? I mean, it got confusing to me.
Right. So I'm only making this recommendation because of the potential, funding imbalance that we might have going into FY24, and I was only recommending it for this year only. Right now, it's slated to go to the LFRDs. If that's withheld and put into the fire department budget, it could help better address staffing so that they could get some of those overtime cost overruns down. That is what I'm recommending. And it's something that you could, later discuss in more detail at council if you prefer.
I would feel more comfortable discussing it at council, I think. I don't know where my colleagues are on this. You're okay with that?
If that's your preference, sure.
Okay. Well, that's what we will have those discussions. Okay.
Okay. So I should say that you're recommending approval of the rest of the budget as submitted. However, you would like to bring that as a budget issue to council.
Yes, in addition to the Bethesda Chevy Chase.
Okay.
If I could interject for one moment, I think the department has some concerns about the eligibility of using ESPP as a backstop to the overtime hole as a result of some of the guidance that we've received from the state. I don't know, Chief, if you want to talk to that at all.
So trying to see where Susan had it outlined. So I'm going to skip to where I have it outlined. The ESPP information as provided by NIMS talks about EMS workforce development stabilization, capital equipment acquisition and maintenance, and augmented evaluation quality improvement initiatives, and then enhanced program development and expansion. So when you look at those four tenets and the items as outlined through the pages of roughly 6, 7, 8, and 9, that's how the department aimed to use the services. The 1.6 to address broad overtime funding versus actuals would be a concern to the audit possibilities of identifying that towards workforce development, stabilization, evaluation, enhancement, expansion, and development. So the funding that is outlined, that 4.5, almost 5 million for all these new EMS services, are all hit these tenets spot on. The operating OE categories that are funded with the ESPP funding are all capital equipment acquisition and maintenance, pertaining to fleet maintenance, EMS supplies, and our wireless communication supporting our patient care reporting and that engagement there. That 1.6 could be utilized for additional EMS-based components in our operating budget, but directly into overtime, it would be a concern downrange, and we are very much new on this. So we don't know how the auditors and how that would view how we could identify that 1.6 towards which units it's being staffed for, how that's not already, quote, funded by the county as its approved staffing, element, and the such. There could be a different way of applying that 1.6 into the department's operating, but on the overtime, as Rachel outlined, there's a question there that we will present to you, as well as, we don't have the best answer on internally.
Okay. Thank you. Eric, did you have your hand up?
Yes, please. We would ask that, since this is similar to the EMST money, and the volunteers worked very hard with the county to come up with this soft billing program, this is the percentage that would go to the volunteer departments. And that gives us great concerns that, since this is really part of EMST and federal money coming through the state, what you're proposing here is to eliminate all the money that would go to your volunteer departments. We do 82 to 83% of what we do is EMS. Your departments are going to use this money just like we do the EMST money. So if you need to, and we don't disagree with Ms. Frog's assertion to correct structural benefit deficiencies, but why would 100% of that come from the volunteer portion of these funds, this 15%? If you're going to do it, we would ask you to do it out of the 85% or an equal split, and not 100% of what is going to be utilized by the volunteer departments.
Right. And I appreciate that. I sincerely do. So unless my colleagues want to change what we're doing, we're just going to leave it the way it is. We would discuss it, I guess, at council, but we're going to leave it as it is. Any changes on that? No? Okay. Very good. Susan, are we clear on what we're doing? You're on mute. Maybe I'm better off you're on mute.
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And with that, unless the committee has anything further, we're going to adjourn. Looks like they have nothing further. Thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.